We're back. I know, eh? 2 videos in a week. Not bad, not bad. Some of you were commenting on the last video about some of the interactions between staff and I that went on behind the scenes. And uh, we had some very interesting staff versus staff uh, conferences, especially in some years when the stage crew was quite large and we had a lot of events. Um, Back in the 80s and 90s, we did the Communications Festival, which some of you may remember. that was that's when the stage crew really hit its prime. Um, for the first time when the stage crew got involved. Up to that point, it was always run by the English department. And it was a case of anybody who wanted to do anything could get on stage and speak or sing or dance or pick their nose or whatever. And it was a 4-day thing, 4 periods each day, so 16 different shows. And students were invited to come down as guests and be the audience. So these are students performing in front of their peers, and it was all. I always look forward to it. It was a real communications thing. A lot of people would sing, and we would sort of not audition for this. Anybody who really wanted to do anything could do anything. It was the English department's thing, and they organized the whole thing. And because the theater across the street, when there was a theater, it's too bad they got rid of it, but it was wheelchair accessible both from an audience standpoint and from a stage standpoint. So I mentioned that fact about that one young gentleman in the wheelchair who was able to wheel himself right onto the stage and perform with keyboards. You couldn't do that with most stages. Certainly, you couldn't do that with a lot of the bigger theaters, but you could do that with the community theater, and it sat 200 people, so it wasn't that small. Um, but the stage crew knew every nook and cranny of that theater, backstage, front of house, into the. I mentioned about a young gentleman climbing into the rafters above the seats to fix the light. We did that too. We did everything. But we had literally 16 different shows with about 6 to 8 acts per show. And every one of those had a different sound cue, a different lighting cue. We had a spotlight. We had, you name it. It was a real process for a full week. And the stage crew would be mostly missing school for a week, and I would have teachers jumping up and down in front of me, going, "Why is this student missing?" I said, "The students on the stage crew doing the Communications Festival. That's it." And they would go, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah," and so on and so forth. And it was always, "Well, this student's one of the worst students I've ever taught. How come he's on the stage crew?" I said, "Because he's wonderful. The guy is amazing. He does this, he does that. Whatever I give him to do, he does it independently. Well, he doesn't do that for me. Oh, maybe if you ask him nicely, show him some respect." Anyway, that's just the way things work, how it is. But there was always, in staff meetings and heads meetings, there was always one teacher who would always say, "Are you in your stage crew?" And I said, "Do you understand that the stage crew makes the whatever's on stage look good, and we have guests from outside the school coming in to see the Remembrance Day assembly, or to see an honors assembly, or to see a play, and they make the school look good if the thing runs right." Okay, so that's how it works. And so they're doing their job, and it was always an ongoing thing. In the meantime, this guy had his own pet groups, and they got off scot-free. I think one guy ran the student council, and he let them run. He let them run. Sorry. I'm going to do something very unprofessional. Sorry, this is called blowing your nose. Ancient secret and something I've perfected over the years. Anyway, yeah, we had one guy run the student council for years. And when he ran the student council, he ran it like arm's length. So whatever they wanted to do, they did. They ran themselves. They got into their own problems. And he was one of these hands-off kind of people. And I yelled at him and I said, I don't run the stage crew like that. Yeah, it's hands-off. But I mean, I watch what they do. And if there's a problem, I'm in there. But pretty much, he says, well, the stage crew seems to run everything itself. I said, that's because they're well rehearsed and they're well practiced and they teach each other and they work cooperatively for a common good. I said the problem with the student council is they all have their own agendas and willy-nilly and they're running here and there and this one's contradicting that one and the next thing you know there's a popularity contest and an infight. And I said you should do something about, oh no, they'll figure it out themselves. That's not how you run things. Oh my God. Oh, it used to piss me off. And then there was one person who, I even have a plaque from him, the South Asian Heritage Committee. Every year, a certain teacher would come up to me, and it would be expected that there would be an assembly for South Asian. Actually, the origins behind that went back years. Back into the 90s, there was something called a cultural assembly. Cultural or international assembly, something, culture, heritage, something, I don't know. I don't remember what it was originally called. Something assembly. And it became the South Asian. I don't know why. For me, the cultural assembly meant all cultures. Everything in the school, everything. I mean, indigenous. I mean, from Muslim to Hindi to Nepalis to whatever was in the school. And we had one person who she was nuts. One teacher who became a VP, and then I don't know what happened to her after that. She was adamant that cultural meant South Asian, and South Asian meant Indian. And Indian meant Hindi. And I argued with her. I said, it doesn't just mean Hindi. She said, well, it means that to me. And I said, no. How many different cultures are there in the Indian subcontinent? Okay, with all the different countries and all the different, from Punjab to, you name it, to Bengal, to you name it, to Bangladesh, to Pakistan, to Sri Lanka. I mean, there's all kinds. Well, it's not what it means to me. I said, who appointed you? Well, the principal. Well, let's have a word with the principal. Oh, no, you can't do that. You guys never ever saw, well, we made sure you didn't see anything like that. And then there was, so it became the South Asian Heritage. Why? I don't know. Because. Yeah, I didn't see any indigenous, and those were the days when even the Remembrance Day Assembly petered out and became a nothing. But there was still a South Asian Heritage. Anyway, we put it on. And it wasn't that I didn't mind putting it on. I love putting it on. I love the dances, and I love the culture, and I loved auditioning people and the Bhangra. And we had some phenomenal students. And the bottom line was, everything that went on that stage was for the students themselves and for the student body. And that's it. If it wasn't for the teachers, although they took credit in a lot of different things. And there was one teacher, and some of you know who he is, every year for about 10 years would knock on my door or send me a memo, and we're doing an assembly, and of course you're going to be involved. No question mark. Okay, of course you're going to be involved. And I said, what if I don't want to? Well, what do you mean if you don't want to? I said, it's not my assembly. And he said to me, well, it's not mine either. I said, yes, it is. Don't pull that stuff with me, and don't just take the stage crew for granted, because all you do, you show up for a couple of rehearsals, which he did, because I told him to, and then he would have a list of students. He would give me the list and walk away. Just walk away like that. And I refused to do it. Then everybody started getting my back, like the principal. How do you teach someone who just refuses to? He would do something like that. He would just give me a list and walk away. Well, it's your job. I said, it's not my job. Okay, this is something completely outside of school. Well, it's taking place during school. I said, yes, but we have rehearsals after school. I was planning to do on this. And I said, I want it, you run it. You run the stage crew. Oh, no, I can't do that. That's your job. No, it's not my job. And they went in on like a big loop. Anyway, to make a long story short, yeah, we did it every year, but every year, I have to tell you, every year I said to myself, it's going to be the last year I do it, last year. And one year with Mr. Povodayko as principal, I'll show it to you when I have the cam mobile. For Education Week, we did an Education Week assembly, and they awarded me the Award of Distinction. I have a plaque up there, one of the very few teachers to get it, and I'm honored by that. Um, and I have a few plaques on my wall. All right, maybe I'll show it to you. Hold on. Okay. The one at the top is the certificate of Annual Award of Distinction. That's from Certificate of Appreciation from the School Council. That's the award that we got. The band played in 2013 at the board, and it was so outstanding. The board gave us an award for that. This is a plaque I got from the stage crew itself in 1990. That's my degree for education. That's my degree, the Bachelor of Arts, which should be Bachelor of Fine Arts, but they made a mistake, but doesn't matter. And South Asian is over there, and I've got a whole bunch of other stuff. That's my wall of, and that's a certificate of appreciation from the late Lorna Jackson, Mayor of Vaughan, because I did a lot of stuff for Vaughan, and I coached a lot of teams and stuff like that. So there's some of the plaques I have, and I don't have any wall space anymore. But yeah, the South Asian show just drove me absolutely crazy, and every year it was the same deal with this one gentleman who would just, and he wasn't the only one. Sports banquet, fashion show, all these other big deal, big ticket items. People would come up to me and go, they hand me a piece of paper and they go, here. Finally, I got to the point where I actually made up a form, a stage crew request form, that listed everything on it. I should dig it out and show it to you. It had type of presentation, how many people involved, what mics were needed, what spotlights were needed. Do you want floor mics? Do you want hanging mics? Do you want lavaliers? Do you want this? Do you want that? Do you need the wing space? Do you need a stage manager? Do you need sound cues? And people didn't even know how to fill them out. They would come up to me and they go, what does this mean? What is that? I just want to do an assembly. Well, learn about it. So I offered during a PD session to run a session on how to put on an assembly and how you book it. You reverse engineer it. You start with the actual show and then you work backwards in the different weeks right up to the initial auditions. And the very first cultural thing that this guy did, he had a list of people, and whoever wanted to be in the show, he was in the show. And it included a list of 4 grade 9 girls who went on stage, and we yanked them off stage in a hurry because they had some kind of dance which would be heavily censored if it were on TV. And I didn't want that to go. We saw it in rehearsal. And I said, no way, they're not going on stage. But they want to be there. Listen. I said, no. Do you understand that they're going to be looked at by their peers and they're going to have this dance, if it's that bad, hanging over their heads for the rest of their high school career? Oh, it never occurred to me. You have no idea the staff people that I had to deal with that were like, I mean, they were nice people, lovely people. I'm sure they drove nice cars and were really nice to people and nice to students. But when it came to stuff technical, they were like that. Unbelievable. And I mean, thank God for some of the teachers we had had a background in stage crew and or sound or lighting and knew a little bit about it and helped out in a lot of different ways. And I couldn't have, in some cases I relied on them. But when you're it for so many years and people come up to you and go, well, of course we're doing a fashion show. I hated doing fashion shows. If you were in a fashion show, please forgive me, but man, oh man, you do a talent show. The talent is there. They understand the concept. You can make them understand that front stage, backstage, stage left, stage right. Come on, never look at your partner when you're dancing. Never ever. When you're in the wings, don't look around the curtain, because if you can see the audience, they can see you, and it's not good form, and so on. Fashion show people were the giraffes of the animal kingdom. They were good looking and sometimes dumb as wood. Oh my God. They were thick as a brick. This is how you walk on. You get to that point in the stage, you'll see a little arrow. Walk forward. And a couple of years, I remember we had a thrust stage. We had the risers, so it extended the runway into the audience by a good 25 feet. And we had 2 or 3 models fall off the runway because we see where the lights are, that's where you stop. They walked right over the lights, right into the audience, into the seats, and wearing some gowns. And then there were others that didn't understand the concept. When you get to the front of the stage, you stop, you count to 3, you turn around, you stop, you pause, you let the audience look at you, and you walk off in the other direction. What do you mean by pause? What do you mean pause? You stop and you don't move. You don't move, you don't move. Oh. Anyway. If the camera starts popping back and forth, like you'll see, it's because it's self-adjusting. There's me. I believe that's Rosie or Jodie Ann Foster. It's one of the 2 of them, I can't tell, on the board. The gentleman here is the late, great Terry Slater, one of the finest teachers I have ever worked with. Now this is 2004 yearbook. Now, explain to me somebody, 2004, Rising from the Flames. I don't get it. The school was never on fire. I don't get it. Mr. Kardash. That guy. Some of you remember him. I don't know if you know that Kardash was a member of the Toronto Argonauts back in 91, 92. And they won a couple of Grey Cups, just whatever. And he was an offensive lineman. He was much, much, much bigger than he was when he slimmed down and he had an option to go into teaching, and he took it. And that meant giving up a football career, which he figured it was time. So he went into teaching full time and then became a vice principal and then a principal. A wonderful guy, terrific guy, wonderful sense of humor. And he once chased down somebody outside. Some drug dealer was running from the school. Like, you see that commercial or video where there's somebody running, and all of a sudden this guy starts running, and he's twice as fast and catches up to him. That's basically what happened with Kardash. He was chasing a guy who thought he would outrun everybody, and all of a sudden he got tackled from behind. Good by Kardash. It was rather gratifying. Kardash was a big man, but you don't play professional football unless you're fast and you can run. Trust me, he was wonderful. The yearbook is also laid out in many different oddball ways, but here's one guy who easily one of the finest musicians on the planet. This guy, I don't know if you... Whoop, where's my finger? That guy. Shanika Visokula. Singer, bass player, tremendously talented musician. Um, could do everything, and I believe he's still floating around with his family's band, and performing here and there. But when he was at the school, he was um, incredible, just incredible. And I got a couple more people that I'm going to show you. There was yeah, this book was laid out back to front, and it had all the different staff members, which should be in the front. They're in the middle, and all the graduates are in front of them. So it was laid out weird. The the whole yearbook thing. As far as I'm concerned, they're the most important documents. The school, next to your certificate, your high school degree, the only other thing you should have had, if you didn't get them, and you should have, was invest in yearbooks, no matter how good or how bad they were. They are a time capsule of when you were that particular age, and the people who may have signed the yearbooks. I know I have all of the signatures in all of mine, whoever signed mine, and I read them still on a constant basis, a regular basis. They were time capsules and they were really important documents of your particular year, and especially a graduating year, because you only graduate once. And people were saying, well, the yearbook, graduation photo, what are you, crazy? You were crazy, because you can't get it overdone. You can't take a picture of you when you were younger anymore. You know, some of you are in your 40s and 50s. Okay, and if you didn't get a yearbook and didn't get a graduation picture, okay. Yeah, I had a running. I have to tell you one story. When I early years of the school, there was a teacher, Benti Dichiara, Miss Dichiara. I believe she passed away a long time ago. But she was a wonderful lady, and she was a counselor, possibly. She had an office in the counseling area. So we ended up with a 1-week feud. And I don't know how it started, but it was a comment that she made about me. She was joking, and I made a comment back to her and something. And then it led to her announcing that Mr. Kaplan would be giving away free car washes or something, or furniture or whatever. So people were showing up to the music room. You're giving out free car anyway. So I sent her a note. She had worn an outfit that reminded me of the pattern on a sofa. And I said, you're looking very sofa-ish today. Well, she took exception to that. So one time I was not in the music room. She managed to get into the music room and steal a couple instruments to keep them in her office. Going to take a look around and going, where are the instruments? Well, Miss Kiera took them. Okay. And I found out when she had lunch. And I had the whole band take all of their instruments and put them into Mrs. DeKira's office, and they piled up right up to the windows. They're full of instruments. And she goes up to her office. Can't get into her office. It's full of instruments. But she had the last laugh. She put an announcement on at the end of the day. Instruments given away for free. Come to Miss DeKira's office. Okay. She won. So when the band, people were listening, and they were going, can I get that trumpet for free? I had to show up to her office and stop people from taking stuff out of her office and walking away with it. because it was like free. And the students were left or right coming out of the woodwork going, "Oh, can I have a trombone?" Yeah, so she won that little escapade. Um, and then we had another staff member in the science department who actually left the school to work with Greenpeace. And very, very, very nature conscious and very focused, and I forget her name, but she would take a big chunk of your flesh out if you made a joke about, Greenpeace or the climate or saving the animals or extinction or whatever, and you didn't joke around with her. Forget her name. Anyway, it was Buddy Week. So you have a secret buddy, and they don't know it's you, but you buy gifts for them, and you leave them. Sometimes, you make a list of what you like. I like coffee, and I like chocolate, whatever, and they leave something in your mailbox or do something for you, and that was Buddy Week. And at the end of the week, you all met in the staff room, and you figured out who was buddy. So she was my secret buddy. I was her secret buddy. That's what it was. And so I did stuff to piss her off. And one of the things I found in a dollar store, and it was a hanging plaque, and it said, "Save the whales." And underneath it said in small print, "Collect the whole set." So I bought it, and I put it in her mailbox. Well, apparently a volcano went off in her head, and she was trying her best to find out who her buddy was. And the department head of science at that time was, I believe, Mitch Fujasic, and he knew exactly who she knew I was her buddy, and he wasn't saying a word. And she would have bored a new hole in the middle of my head, I'm pretty sure. But she was not happy about that whole thing, and I don't think she ever found out. And I certainly didn't show up to that Friday afternoon meet your buddy party. I wasn't there at all, and I don't think anybody told her, but yeah, I did a few things like that. She wasn't happy about it. I think I gave her a toy crossbow. Anyway, but the save the whales, collect the whole set plaque. Yeah, that set her off. It set her off for an entire week. She was trying to find out who her buddy was. What else? Yeah, lots of weird stuff. Some of you want me to talk about the teacher who remained in the building the year of the strike. I will say I won't. You probably know who it might be, and you also know that we had a relatively new principal at the time who came on that year, Mr. Montgomery, who only was there for about a year and a half, and then he left mid-year to go to Salt Lake City and live with his wife down there, and I haven't seen him in years. He was a wonderful guy, Mr. Montgomery. But the one teacher who stayed in the school and refused to be part of the strike and so on. Don't know much about what happened to him beyond that, but I do know that if you remember, we have a former teacher who was a baker. And I'm having a senior moment, okay? Golder, Mr. Golder. Mr. Golder could speak many different languages. German, French, English, Hebrew, Yiddish, Arabic, you name it, he could speak it. And for some of the students who weren't exactly all books in on a shelf, he would have a phrase, untergebacken, underbaked. So this teacher who remained in the school, who taught math, I believe, could be considered untergebacken, underbaked. I'll never forget this. I turned 36. How many years ago? And I walked into the staff room, and he was sitting there, and I said, "Today's my birthday." He says, "How old are you?" I said, 36. And the first words out of his mouth were, "Oh, a perfect square." Not happy birthday or, a perfect square. Yeah, 36 is a perfect square. Thank you very much. Now I feel much better. Anyway, lots more stories. What am I up to? 29 minutes. Yeesh. Okay. I don't even know. Today was a hodgepodge of different things, and um, leave a comment, subscribe, tell people about these videos. If you've made it this far and you're not asleep yet, tell people about these videos. They're getting, lots of 50-something views each video, which is kind of cool. And I'm having fun doing them. In the meantime, uh, uh, spread the word, because there's a lot of people who have no idea, and they're not necessarily, let's say, on Facebook. They're on YouTube. They watch whatever. Let them know about the videos. I should have said that at the beginning, because people have a tendency to fall asleep at the 5 minute mark. Yeah. Okay. That's enough for today. We'll see you guys maybe by the end of the week, next week.